I, F28, own a house. I wish I didn't because I inherited it from my grandmother whom I would prefer to have back. It is an older house in a mature neighborhood in my city. It has a huge yard, a garden, and a detached garage large enough for a couple of cars and an RV. It also has an in-law suite where I live. I started living there when I started university and I love it. My exit leads to the backyard and my garden. After the estate was all settled I was left with a little money and a fully paid off house. I am the baby of all the cousins and I was a noob's baby. I am 17 years younger than the next youngest. I decided that I would keep living in my area and just take on short-term renters to help me cover expenses. I also planned to allow any of my nieces and nephews who went to school in my city live with me. So far only my one nephew has, and he was well behaved and moved out when he finished school. I found a couple that wanted the entire upper floor for 1 year while they got settled from moving across the country for work. No big deal. I have 3 nibblings graduating the next year and only one might go to school in my city. So I let my property manager set up a 1-year lease. My city does not have a minimum rental increase. This is important. So after 6 months the problems start. The wife got pregnant. And they like the house. They have not found a house they want to buy. They want to keep living here. But they don't want a roommate. So one day the husband catches me and says that he has talked to the property manager about renting the entire house and that I might want to start looking elsewhere for a place to live. I check with my guy and yup, he wants the whole house. So I talk to my lawyer because I don't want any problems. As long as the increase is 1 year after tenancy and I give 3 months notice, there is literally no limit on the rental increase. So I tell my property manager to raise the rent for the ground level 50%. They have 5 months notice of a rental increase, so I am in the clear. Now I can hear them fighting about having to find a new place. Which I don't get because I was clear in the lease that it was only for 1 year. And I gave them a good price because they had excellent credit and rental history. The real estate market in my city isn't crazy. They should be able to find something to buy in time. Or at the very least somewhere else to rent. I have talked to my parents about this and they said I'm being sort of mean. I don't think I am. I have a plan for my home and it does not involve me moving out. I have a garden that I worked with my grandmother my entire life. I have a yard with raspberry bushes my grandfather planted for his kids and grandkids. My dog likes having a yard to play in. I could have told them it's my home, but it's not their business. Ada? I own a printing company that I run with my wife. Her cousin came to us and wanted us to do all the signage, banners, guest books, life-sized cutouts, etc. for her wedding. We do this all the time for friends' weddings and events, and we never charge. We're happy to help out and it's usually a lot of fun working together to make some cool stuff. A few weeks before the wedding, her wedding planner tells us they need all the items by X date so they can set it up for the wedding. At this point, we hadn't received our wedding invitations and didn't even know when the actual wedding was. My wife texts her and tries to clarify when the wedding is and if we missed the invitation somehow. Her cousin replies and says we downsized the wedding and we decided to have like a close friends and family thing and that they didn't have space for us in the small venue. My wife and I are pretty hurt and insulted. And on top of it, we've spent close to $2,000 on all the materials. Her cousin and the wedding planner kept making tiny revisions to the artwork, had us print samples to see how it would look in person, resized several of the items a few times, etc. All that cost a ton of time and money. And we're a functioning business, so we either had to delay other orders or stay late and print her stuff on our own time. So I went ahead and billed her for our cost and said we needed payment before delivery because I'm not going to chase her for payment for months, years after the wedding. We're not making money on it, just charged her for the cost of materials. So far we've gotten threatening calls from the cousin, her fiancé, some random members of my wife's family that I don't know, some of the groomsmen, etc. essentially calling us assholes. After the harassment, I'm considering charging full price or else we won't deliver the items. Are we the assholes here? Sorry, but I'm not going to waste my hard-earned time and money on someone who doesn't even consider us close friends and family. Preface: if I come off as callous, it's because I'm trying to be succinct. I, 46F, have a 16-year-old daughter. In July, She was in a car accident. Most of her injuries were mild. She went to the hospital but they let her go home after a few days of observation. But even after we got home, she still complained a lot about pain. I was concerned and took her to our GP but they couldn't find anything wrong. I told her it was probably in her head and in response to the traumatic event and that she'd be fine in a few days. She stopped complaining about it after that and everything seemed good. Fast forward to yesterday and I got an email from her teacher that she's constantly despondent in class and laying her head down and not participating. I was already seeing red from that and I decided to check on her grades. She turned in multiple assignments late and lost points on them, which is not at all on par with her typical performance. I confronted her about it and she was really quiet at first, like she didn't know what to say. I pushed her on it and she started talking about pain again, which I frankly think is bullshit. She hasn't said a peep about it for 2 months, only when her grades are slipping. We started arguing about it and I said that her grades matter more than her pain. She's a junior this year, it is not the time to be slacking. She's been in her room since, refusing to talk to anyone. She wouldn't even go to school today. I'm at a loss, she's never been so difficult. And I'm questioning whether or not I'm in the right here. Ada? Edit, I get it, I'm an awful person. I wasn't seeing past the grades and I treated my daughter horribly. Thank you especially to the medical professionals who replied, I had no idea this could be so serious. I've already booked a specialist for 2 weeks from now, earliest appointment, and apologized to my daughter. I know I still have a lot of making up to do. We're going out for ice cream. I'm 25F and my husband, 30M, and I got married last Friday. We planned our dream wedding down to our dream catering company. The wedding was beautiful. After the pictures we headed to our cocktail hour, and that's when I saw her. My guests were all told to wear dark colors so my husband and I stood out. I also asked my guests to wear minimal makeup. I had assumed that applied to the staff too. The server 19ish had on clearly too much eyeliner. She also had diamond studs in her ears, a flashy ring, and one of those ugly nose studs. The staff's uniform was a black long-sleeved shirt but on her, it was too low-cut and her pants were far too tight. It was super distracting. She was walking around serving drinks and talking to my guests. I asked another member of the staff to speak to their boss. When their boss came out I pointed out the server and asked that she be dealt with cause she was super distracting. Their boss apologized and called the server back into the kitchen. Not even an hour later the server was back out serving food for dinner. I called the boss over again and asked if the server could work in the back or go home. Her boss said they were short-staffed tonight so she would see what can be done. After a couple of hours of not seeing her, I saw the server again behind the bar. I called the boss out one last time and told her if the server didn't leave I would be calling the cops. The boss finally relented and told the girl to go home. And #X200B. My husband and mother-in-law said I was acting crazy and that I probably got a poor college kid fired over nothing. My mother and ma said it's my wedding so I can do as I please. It's my wedding and I don't want someone overshining me, and the server should know she's at work and not dress up so much. I do feel kind of bad because she was pretty young. Am I the ass? Before I start I'd like to say that I'm a bit of a big girl. No shame in that. I love myself just the way I am and I have been living by the motto be you, everybody else is taken. Hi. So this happened last night. I'm still hella confused by this whole thing. So, I F28 have been dating my boyfriend M31 for 7 months. His family are of Italian origins and they take a lot of pride in it. They invited me over to their house several times. Last night, his parents came over to the act for the first time. They said they were visiting a friend and decided to stop by for dinner. I freaked out when they said dinner because it was late, and I was working and had no time to cook. So I ordered pizza for all of us. The second his parents saw the pizza they got pissed. His dad gave me a nasty stare then said that I intentionally served them pizza just because they were Italians. In other words, he claimed I was mocking them and their food and assuming that just cause they're Italian then they'd only eat Italian food, which he called racist. I was confused. I said I didn't think it was interpreted that way, but he said if you have Asian guests over do you serve them sushi? How would you like if we only serve you McDonald's and fries every time you visit, since that's what Americans eat? I was stunned by his words. Basically, he was saying that just because they're Italian then I shouldn't assume they'd like to have pizza, but who doesn't like pizza? He and my boyfriend's mom got up and said they wanted to leave. My boyfriend tried to get them to stay and take it easy, but they left eventually. He blew up saying I messed by serving them pizza and insulting them indirectly. He told me to call and apologize, but I said no and that I didn't have time to cook anything after they showed up unexpectedly. He got more upset and asked if his parents needed permission to visit him. I backed off thinking he'd call down. He kept saying I insulted his parents and I need to apologize. I'm utterly and genuinely confused. Ada?